Hey there, everybody. Thank you for watching. I know there's a lot out there on YouTube and other social media, but I'm very happy that you're choosing to support me with likes, with subscribing to my channel, checking out my other social media, checking out my podcast, linking to the afterlife. It's really going, it's more than I thought it would do. I've always wanted this, and now that it started, Spirit had so many ideas for us as we move down this road of podcasting. Past lives are coming through, spirit guides are coming through, loved ones are coming through. It's so wonderful. But today I wanted to talk about spirit messages that take years to come to you and how to trust the process, the path that you're going toward, even if you don't think you're doing anything. When you trust that you are your intuition, you don't have to question it because your whole body receives the message of what is next, whether it's in the next moment, the next day, the next month, or the next year or 10 years. You are trusting every single iota of who you are, regardless of what you might view as maybe a negative situation or a bad situation. I like to say in the new paradigm, there's no such thing as bad or negative, but it doesn't mean there's not emotion attached to things, situations, or people. All of these things are teaching us to be present with the emotions that are coming up, to not deflect to something else, to not judge ourselves or someone else, to not shame ourselves or someone else, or put the blame on someone else or ourselves. All those moments are teaching us. And yeah, it'd be great if we got confirmation from spirit or something that we're on the right path. The new paradigm teaches us that we are always on the right path. And if you don't look at right or wrong, you are always on your path. Whichever way you choose to go, that is your path. And acceptance is a big part of forward momentum. Do you have to always figure things out and go deep down rabbit holes? Not necessarily, because if it feels good, but there's a part of you maybe that says, I never would have done that in the past, keep going. If it feels right to do it, feel it, honor it, and go ahead. I'm going to tell you a couple stories that prove my point here and that have taught me just in the last year alone to know what I just said, to know that everything is my path, regardless of what it looks like in the moment. It is my path, regardless of what it feels like in the moment. It is my path. The first one I'm going to talk about is something that happened when I was about 6 years old. I received a pin from my godparents. And that pin, it was cute. From my memory of it, it said my name on the front, first name, last initial of my last name. And there was a medal of Jesus that hung down. And that's what I remembered of it. And it was gold. I also remember taking it with me with each move that I made. And if you've been following me, I've made a lot of moves in the last 30 plus years. But I never really took it out or wore it because it was gold and it was a pin, and I never wanted to put holes in my shirt, and I never wanted to wear gold. I like silver, but I had a memory of it. I'm reading a book that I've read, this is about a year ago. I'm reading a book that I've read maybe about 6 or 7 years ago that my mom gave to me, called The Camino by Shirley MacLaine. And it brought up so many memories this time because my mom is now passed. And it brought up so many memories of things my mom and I had shared about that book. She was such a big supporter of what I am doing now. And she was always anticipating bigger things for me. And she always said, come on, get that done before I die. Publish that book before I die. I want to see it. I want to see it out in print. So I'm reading this book and I'm reminded of this phrase that my mom and I had talked about back in 2014. And it was a phrase from the book talking about your cross being your anchor. I'll put it in the description down below. So I immediately Googled my email to see if I had that from my mom. And I certainly did. I had the email, I had saved it from back in 2014, where she said, here is that. Remember, it was a cross as an anchor, anchoring yourself to the physical world as well as the spiritual world, something like that. And for the last few years, I've actually had that vision of a cross with an anchor, as something, maybe a tattoo that I'd want to get, or maybe a logo of something I wanted to do. But it was always in my thoughts because my mom and I always talked about it. About a couple months ago, this is after all of that I just explained, about a couple months ago, my crazy glue that I was using to glue my glasses was clogged. So I had used once a pin that I took from my mom after she passed. I used it to unclog it. I went into my jewelry box. It's a drawer, it's a little box, and I immediately see that pin, but my eye is drawn to the pin I received back when I was 6 years old. This is almost 60 years later, over 50 years later. I pick up the pin and I notice that on the back of that pin, there is a cross with an anchor. I never knew that. I don't think my mom ever knew that when we were talking about the cross as an anchor. But here's the actual pin. It has my name on it, Donna B. The front is a medallion of Jesus. And on the back is the cross with an anchor. And it has an Italian phrase at the bottom. So I immediately Googled that phrase, and it means go with God. You are protected by God. And I said immediately to my mom in the spirit world, Mom, 50 years, this message from Spirit comes back to me. My mom's not here anymore, but she saw it, she heard it, she knew it was going to happen. But again, Spirit has no time frame. There is no time in the world of Spirit. To Spirit, they gave us this pin yesterday. They gave me this pin yesterday to them. And they just are very patient with waiting for the physical world to bring forward the message. Big message for Donna. Deep breath in and out. Again, took over 50 years and many synchronicities, many paths that I had to trust to get me to many places in my life so that this could show up again. And yes, I have it on my desk now. I'm always looking at it. Good one. The second instance where, for me, Spirit took a very long time to get my attention with, however, and the same way, things were placed in the physical world waiting for me. This Spirit message started back in 1963. I was 3 years old in 1963, 2 years old. And that's all I'll say right now for that. But anyway, that's when this message from Spirit started. About a year or so ago, I synchronistically, my mom passed away. You may have heard the story. She passed away. I went to live at her condo for a while, sold the condo, had nowhere to go. I'm about a month away from having to move somewhere. I'm a minimalist. I travel a lot. And my brother calls me and says, I've got some apartments for rent. One of them is going to be up at the end of this month. Why don't you come back here to the hometown that I grew up in? And I said, okay. Didn't question it. Just came out of the blue. I said, I trusted that I was my path and that I was going to go for it. And I went for it. And I moved back to my hometown into this house that my brother had owned maybe 6 to 8 years. And when he bought it, There was nothing in it. There was a few pieces of furniture, but there was nothing else, right? It was empty. They had actually done a lot of construction to make it into 2 apartments after 1963, maybe about 10 or 12 years ago. So it was set up to be 2 apartments. And my brother had moved all of his stuff into the basement. He's a builder, so there's a lot of stuff in the basement, a lot of stuff in the garage. And I would have to go to the basement to do my laundry. No big deal. But I'm on the 3rd floor. And every time I went to the basement, some stuff would happen with Abraham Lincoln. There was once a penny that was found in the dryer. And whenever Abraham Lincoln, one of my spirit guide, comes to me, my other presidential spirit guide, JFK, is right on his heels. They can't go a day between. If one of them sends a message, the other one has to be right behind them. So the next day, I anticipated, after the penny appeared, synchronistically, I anticipated a sign from JFK. I go downstairs. Remember, I had already been in the house about 8 months. I had been through the basement. I have moved stuff around. It's not that crowded. And there's a table with a lot of my brother's tools on it. Sure, I've noticed it, but never took great interest unless I needed a tool. This time, the day after the penny appeared, I'm starting to walk up the stairs, and I could feel my head drawn to that table to look at that table. On that table, I notice now, there is an old newspaper. It's yellowed and dirty, and the tools are on it. There's an old newspaper. And I thought to myself, could this be an old newspaper? Could this be an old newspaper? From when? And what is the message? As I start clearing off the tools, I clear off first the date, and the date is Monday, May 27th, 1963. And I say to myself, 1963, could this be JFK? Could there possibly be, in a small town in Connecticut, a newspaper clipping from 1963? Could that be possible? And could JFK be on the front? Move away some more, and I see this. It's a picture of JFK. That was on the newspaper. 1963. My brother did not own the house in 1963. He had only purchased it about 6 or 8 years ago. I immediately get on the phone and call him. Anson, this newspaper, this old newspaper that's under all your tools on the table in the basement. He's like, yeah. Where did it come from? I said, oh, geez, I don't know. When I moved in the house, I found it somewhere. And then I just moved it down to the table. I'm like, but why did you keep it? He said, I don't know. I thought it was cool. I said, well, why did you put all your tools on it? He said, I don't know. And I'm like, why is there a newspaper? The one thing that nobody threw out for almost 60 years. Why is that still in this house? He's like, I don't know. I said, it's JFK on it. And he knows about my spirit guide. And he said, oh, well, that's interesting. I was honored. I was certainly hearing JFK say, we'll wait forever. And he obviously waited over 60 years, but that house had to be sold. It had to be cleaned out probably more than once. And that newspaper had to stay. How many lives came in contact with that newspaper? That something in them, their path, as well as my path, their path was somehow to keep that newspaper after all these years, not knowing why, but trusting some voice that might have said to them, oh, leave that there. Somebody may like to see it. The next day, or that day, I go for a walk with my brother, and we're talking about things. And I said to Spirit before the walk, JFK, I said, if that is a sign, and that was a pretty good sign, give me one more confirmation. And for some reason, my brother and I walked to his mailbox, which I had only been through to once with him while he was driving. For some reason, we walked to it. He pulls out a package. He goes, oh, my package is here. And stamped on the front of that package was a huge initials, huge in bold, JFK. It had come from the airport. JFK was stamped on the package. Now I'm getting double confirmation. The point of these stories, keep going. Keep on your path. You may not know where anything will lead you, but if your gut, the intuition that you truly are, your soul, your purpose, step confidently knowing that everything that you do is for your purpose, regardless of what you think about it. Process, be that presence of your true self. Be it. Be your purpose. Don't look for it. Don't ask about it. Be your soul purpose. I am so open here to any comments that you might have. I'll answer them. Any shares that you give, talk about it, like it. I appreciate everything that you guys have been doing that supports me in the work that I'm doing. I feel it. Thank you for the vibration. Thank you for stepping up to the plate. See you in the next video. Take care.